Hey, what's up everybody? It's Andre with AndreReeseDotBiz. All right guys, I'm out here on a Tuesday morning in Richmond, Virginia, trying to get it in. It's about 8:20 in the morning, and man, we got some topics to talk about today. So let's just go ahead and get right to those real quick. So we're gonna talk today about 4 topics. I'm gonna squeeze those in here in this hour. We're gonna talk about what makes Virgin Voyages different than other cruise lines. We're also gonna talk about the Eclipse of the Century is coming next year. So we'll talk about that also as well. We'll talk about if you're thinking about flying and traveling someplace this year for the holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas, you know, you gotta light a candle and light a fire to get your holiday travel booked. So we'll talk about that real quick. And the final thing we'll talk about is my chopstick journey. So, you know, how I've switched over to just eating solely with chopsticks. So just a little bit of B-roll real quick. Like I said, we're out here on Tuesday and in Richmond, Virginia. It's about 8:20 in the morning. Temperature is about 65 or so, a little bit cool today, and feels great. This is my second day back on my bike. So my first day was Sunday. I took the day off on Monday yesterday, and then I'm out here again today trying to be able to make it happen. So let's go ahead and just go ahead and start talking about the topics and make it through and get through those real quick. This topic here is what makes Virgin Voyages different, you know, and so we'll go through a number of different items that I found, you know, that makes them different and what I appreciate. And so, like I said, I think I've been on 14 or so cruises. It might be plus or minus one.
Distance 2.0 miles.
Don't quote me, don't get mad at me. So the cruise lines I've been on, the first one I ever went on was Carnival, and then I went on Princess, then on Disney, and then also went on Royal Caribbean, and so the final right now that I've been on is Virgin Voyages. So I've had a good chance to kind of get a smattering of what is available, and I think each cruise line probably came at a different point in my life, except for Princess. It was just a one and done type of a thing, you know. And so, as you guys all know, when you're on Carnival, it's the fun ship. There's a lot of announcements. There's a lot of things happening. There's activities. It's drinks. It's just nonstop party atmosphere, you know, and that's what it's famous for. So at some point really early on in the game, I stopped going on Carnival. I ended up going on a Princess cruise, and when I went on that one, it was a slightly longer one out of San Francisco, which was great. And so there had a tendency to be wheelchairs and walkers on that cruise. You know, the crowd was a lot older and a lot more subdued. You know, there was very hard to find anybody that was a little bit older, a little bit younger on the ship. But, you know, it was what it was. It served a purpose of being able to have, a vacation out of the Bay Area without having to fly and be able to see some places, which was pretty cool. And then went on a number of different Disney cruises, probably 3 or 4, I don't remember the number. And that's primarily driven off of Amber. And you know, kids love Disney and all things Disney, so that's great. And so I haven't been back since. And then after that, I kind of took a break from cruising and came back probably 3 or 4 years ago after the pandemic. And yeah, actually it's pretty close to 3 or 4 years ago. This is when I met my wife and we were first starting to date. I went on a cruise right after tax season, solo dolo. And then all the cruises I've gone on since we've been on them together. And so we went on a few Royal Caribbeans, 3 of them. And I think it was 3. Yeah, I went on the one by myself, went on an Alaska one, went on Alaska one twice, I think. So actually it's 4. Went on one out of Miami, and had a good time for what it was. And so now I've migrated to Virgin Voyages. And so one of the things that caused me to even consider going on Virgin is that there's a lot of stuff that I don't necessarily like. And I think last time I went on a Royal Caribbean ship, to be honest with you guys, I felt like I was being nickel and dime to death for everything. You got to pay for Wi-Fi. If you want to have soda pop, you got to pay for that. And when you do pay for the soda, it's not easily accessible. There's only a couple spots on the ship that have the soda machines. Of course, if you're going to eat dinner or whatever, they're going to have soda available for you, And then it's always a constant barrage of like upselling. There's a lot of people that are trying to push drinks, and this is on all the cruise ships. I realize they got to try to make their money, so it's all part of their business model, And so it's one thing to have to pay for excursions, but if you're walking through the ship and you see something that's kind of cool, like some candy, you're going to have to come out of the pocket to pay for that on Royal or pretty much any of these other cruise ships, And then there's always the pictures and the photographs, whenever you decide to go to dinner, in the main dining room, or you go into, let me make sure I get through here. You go into the main dining room, or you go into, example, you go into the, one of the elevated restaurants where you got to pay to go eat there. There's always a staff of folks that are trying to scoop up on you and take pictures and do all that stuff. So, and you're having a great time. You might be celebrating something because you're paying an upcharge to go eat at these restaurants. And they take a good picture. You're kind of like, it's kind of cool. I think I'll go ahead and buy that. And it's just like a lot of other stuff. And then also too, it's always the tip culture that they have on there of, you feel like even though you're paying a daily tip charge, that all the people on the ship, they all have very, very sad stories. And this is like a lot of them. This is not just Royal Caribbean, And like I said, all this is just all my opinion. And you guys should all make your own decisions. And then I think one of the funniest hustles of all is like on the night when you get ready to, or the day you get ready to leave the ship, the day before they leave envelopes in the cabin for you to, give more money to the steward and give more money to the maitre d' and give more money to the dining staff. And if there's anybody special on the ship, give more money to them, above and beyond what they may already get, and all good. It is what it is, And then so when you try to leave and sneak out the ship to get out, to go to your, to disembark and get to the airport, wherever you're trying to go, the cabin steward's always out in the hallway, seems like in front of your cabin, folding the same towel over and over and over and over, to be able to make sure that it's like pen to paper, belt to ass, all that stuff, face to face, that, hey, this is your chance to, thank me one last time, give me a little bit of extra change and cash and all that type of stuff. So those are some of the things I didn't necessarily like, and then even when you get on the ship, you can't even get on the ship. The ships are very crowded because they're like mega ships, a lot of them are. And they hold 6,000, 7,000, 8,000. Some of them are getting up now to 10,000 passenger and crew. And so if you want to get on the ship, it's crazy. It takes a long time to be able to do that. And then once you get on the ship, you can't go to your cabin, whatever it might be, because you got to wait for them to get done. And you don't get your luggage till late in the evening. And so it's just, more of a corralling type thing. And then if you want to get off the ship for, a voyage, for an excursion, any of that kind of stuff. You know, there's a lot of people. And if you want to disembark, man, forget it. Hella long ass lines, you got to snake all through the ship, you know, to be able to get off the boat, you know, get to your final destination. So, you know, there's there's the hassle factor. And then on top of that too, being an older person, you know, you go on a Royal Caribbean ship or any of these other ones, I'm not gonna get on the slide. I'm not gonna slide from the 20th deck down to the 7th deck. You know, I'm not gonna do the rock climbing. I'm not going to do the surfing out there at sea. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I'm just not going to do. So there's a ton of the ship that has a bunch of things happening and going on that I'm not gonna do. So it kind of feels a little bit more wasted, you know, like it's like there's only about half the ship I feel like I can use, or 2/3, because a lot of it is dedicated to other stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that at all, you know. There's so many different demographics that are out there, and these cruise lines have spent billions and billions and billions of dollars trying to capture and appeal to their niche, you know. So like I said, there's a time and a place for everything, and at some point you kind of outgrow stuff. And I think the other thing too is that it takes a long time to build like status, and then once you get status on any of the legacy carriers or lines, you don't really get a whole lot for it. You know, you'll get like, you may lucky to get, you know, discount on your Wi-Fi, or your Wi-Fi covered, or, you know, some of the lower levels, or it seems like, you know, a t-shirt. And some of the bigger levels, you get pens, and people, you know, enjoy walking around the ship with their pen to show that they've got, you know, status and all that as well. And a lot of them feel entitled, what I've seen, because they got the pins on. So it is what it is. And like I said, a brother is not tripping on any of that stuff at all. So you got to make it happen. Got to do what it do. And I'm not even tripping. So there's a lot of stuff, like I said, that I have grown to not like. And so, and how do we even end up on Virgin? So I'd heard about Virgin. Virgin was fairly new, and they had come out with ships right at the top of the pandemic, and they really didn't get to use them, and the cruise industry was kind of struggling to get people back. And as I was looking for something for us to do for Valentine's Day of this year, you got married, you want to make sure that you, at least the first year, you want to at least celebrate Valentine's Day in a nice way, and celebrate your anniversary in a nice way also as well. You can always pare stuff back later. But like I said, the first year is really like your honeymoon period for you guys to hang out and do things and kind of set the pace for what you're going to be doing going forward. And so I was like, let's go ahead and check out this Virgin. So I told Marilyn about it. She was like, oh, okay. She said she loved the brand Virgin. And so, because she's in the airline, in the travel industry, and she's flown on Virgin Airlines many times before in the past, especially in Europe. And she told me some wonderful and fantastic stories about the service and all that. So I was like, cool. All right, let's go ahead and do that. And so we went ahead and made the reservation and showed up in Miami and got on the ship. And immediately you can tell a difference. So as soon as you get on the ship, things are, you have like a couple of the happening cast members that are greeting you, dancing to some songs. There's no, let's wind up a little bit. So you have to choose your time to get on the ship, you know. And I think we had chose like 2:30. So we got there, we got in line. They ended up letting us get on the ship like 45 minutes early. Oh man, that was cool. We get on the ship, actually we go through the check-in process, and I had heard before that you can check your luggage, or you could just go ahead and bring it with you, because you can go right to your cabin and get settled in. So I was like, there's a lot of stuff in my suitcase I can't afford to miss and lose. And so I'm gonna go ahead and just make it happen and stay here or keep my stuff with me. And so keep our stuff with us. So that's what we did. And so to get on the ship and go through security, get our little wristband, and make it through security and finally step foot on the ship, I kid you not, it was about 5 to 7 minutes. So quick and so efficient. And even I've gone through many cruises out of Miami before, and once you get there, it's a long, you figure about 30 to 40 minutes to get on the ship generally. And once you get close and you start working your way to the gangway, there's like multiple photo stops, and you know, that backs things up and slows things down. And so that's when everything really starts. And so like I said, we got on the ship, we rolled right to our room, we put our stuff down, and then the cabin steward came over, introduced herself, and said, hey, yo, this is who I am. And she explained the room and welcomed us because we were virgins to Virgin. And it was a very warm reception. And then in the rooms, you know, water is hard to come by, and they provide you water in the room, you know, and if you need more water, they'll bring it. There's no charge for it. You get it in these crafts. And if you want ice, they will bring ice, you know. And so like all the stuff that's very difficult and hard to achieve on the other ships is very frictionless on Virgin, you know. And once you're on the ship and you're walking around, you're enjoying things are a lot smaller. They're a lot more elegant and simplified and refined with the colors and the way things are decorated. It's not necessarily a mass market appeal. And the thing is, like when you first walk into any ship, you know, the larger ones, they're gonna have like a grand promenade where it's like multiple stories of the ship, and you walk into this grand atrium. It's kind of like the heartbeat in the center of the ship. On Virgin, the area you first walk into is not overwhelming at all. So it's very balanced, it's very relaxed. And the thing with them is that stuff is happening all over the ship. And so there's not like one grand area where things are kind of concentrated. Activities are spread out all over the ship and all the different decks and stuff that they have. And you just kind of have to find what works for you and what speed you're trying to go at your vacation, and that's pretty cool, you know. So those are some of the things. And like I said, there's no photography, there's no forced situations where they come around. And then the other thing too is that when you go on into the cruise ships, you know, and I've talked about this before in the past, most of them, they have like one central kitchen in the whole entire ship. And so if you go on something like a Royal Caribbean, it's going to have a buffet that's going to have the sit-down restaurants. And I've gone to the buffet and, you know, or I've actually gone to the sit-down restaurants, and then you turn around and go, because you might like, well, I want to get some dessert down here or something. And so you go down to the buffet and they have the same food. And so it's like, it's a difference between you serving yourself or having somebody bring the food to you. You know, all good, it is what it is, but most of the stuff is kind of centralized. And on Virgin, there are no buffets at all. And so everything is localized. There's not one central kitchen. Every area makes its own food. And so they have the chefs that have come up with the recipes and all that, but each department that's there, they make their own food, you know, which is great. You know, so there is a variety. It's very different. You're not going to find that the French fries in the main dining room are the same ones that they have down in the buffet itself. You know, and then also too, you don't have interruptions at all in your space. So there's no announcements that are taking place. You may, once you get going, you may have one captain announcement like the day before talking about the day that's coming up, you know, or if there's been some changes or if they have to reroute or something like that, they'll come on and talk about that. But it's not the constant party thump vibe or interrupting your vacation that you're going to find. And then the other thing too is when you go to the ports, like all of them that I've been on, whenever you go to a port, all these companies, they all have agreements with people that are in the shops, or they own the shops themselves. And so they always are trying to push you to go to the Dominique district and take the coupon to this particular place, and you'll be able to get, a free pendant or whatever, and be able to see what they got going on. They don't do any of that stuff at all on Virgin. So like I said, it's not the constant hustle, it's not the constant upsell, it's not the constant interruption of your vacation, any of that stuff. And when you go to the promenade where they have the stores and shops, everybody down there is chill. They're not trying to rush you into their stores. They're not trying to get you to buy something. If you want to go in and take a look and see what they got, that's what you can do. If you don't want to go, there's no hustle, none of that kind of stuff. They do have, like the first 2 nights on Virgin, they got buy one, get one free, but that information comes up in the app, but they're not announcing it on anything like over the intercom, that type of stuff. And so, like I said, it's very, very cool. And then you don't have the constant drink hustlage. And so when you go to Scarlet Night, you can go get yourself a drink. There are people that are walking around, a few that are willing to, they either have a signature drink that you can purchase, or you can decide to have them go get you something, and they will do that. And the tips are already included. So if the drink is like 12 bucks, that's what it costs. You don't have to add any additional tip, any of that kind of stuff. There's no mandatory gratuity, any of that. It's already built into the price. So that's all great too. And then the hammock vibe, man, you can't beat the hammocks on Virgin Voyages. It's just so comfortable and relaxing to be swinging on your balcony and watch the sun go up or go down, or just chill out during the day, enjoy yourself. And I really, 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 really enjoy all that about it. And then, like I said, in the end, there's no hassle. When you want to get off the ship, you get off the ship, and you can be off the ship and through customs and out to the front to go get picked up within like 5 minutes. It's very, very cool. So, like I said, am I a Virgin fanboy? Yeah, I am. And are we a Virgin couple? Absolutely. And like I said, where we are in our lives right now, Virgin Voyages provides everything that we need. And the only thing that you have to pay for now, outside of what you get for your room, is Wi-Fi. If you want to get a little faster Wi-Fi, they include Wi-Fi. If you want faster Wi-Fi, you got to pay to upgrade that. I always do that. And then the other thing that's really cool is that if you're walking through the ship and you see anything pretty much anywhere, they got gummy bears, they got pretzels, they got muffins, whatever it might be. All that stuff for the most part is free, and you just tell them what you want, they give it to you, then you are good to go. So that stuff is all completely wonderful. So like I said, in the end, we are definitely a Virgin Voyages couple, and we enjoy everything that's about the ship and what it provides, the lifestyle, the atmosphere. And like I said, we have consolidated our activities to Virgin. And then the other thing that's really nice is that it really only takes 2 cruises before you get into their reward program. And then once you get into the reward program, the 3rd and the 4th cruise, you get a drink, you get a specialty coffee every day that you don't have to pay for. They provide coffee and tea, but if you want to have like one of the fancier ones, they provide you with one a day. There's also an option where if you have laundry, they give you like a pillow slip sized bag that you can put your clothes in. You can get 1 complimentary laundry with that. You get, what else do you get with that? You get that. I think you get something else, I forget what it is. But then once you've cruised 4 cruises, the 5th one, you become their top end of their Blue Extra, or their Reward Extra program. I forget what it's called. But what that gives you is $100 bar tab credit every time you cruise with them. You get the upgraded Wi-Fi that's included for free. You get the bag of laundry, but you also get the ability to take, I think, 3 other items to have them specially cleaned and pressed. And then and then you get priority boarding. So whenever the ship first opens up after the rock stars go in, you get to go in right after that. And it's a it's one of the most generous reward programs that are available right now. So like I said, we have consolidated down to Virgin, and I'm not here to try to tell you guys to do one thing or another, but check it out. And so like I said, we're sold. We have other cruises that are planned coming up in the future, and I'll let you guys know about those when they come. But we are as happy as can be. So let's go ahead and jump to the next topic. So the next topic we're going to talk about is the eclipse of the century. So it's kind of funny because we had the total eclipse that rolled through the U.S. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, probably maybe a little bit longer than that, three or four, something like that. I forget the exact number, but we won't get another total eclipse that will roll through the U.S. for a long time, and I don't even think it'll be within a reasonable lifetime to me. And so the total eclipse now is happening like hey, how you doing? It happens every year, and somewhere in the world. And they just had the total eclipse this year. A lot of people in my feed, they were over in Europe checking it out, is where they were doing it. And we were originally going to try to go and see it, but we had so much other stuff going on that we just left it alone. And so now the longest eclipse in modern history, I think 136 years from eclipse to eclipse, is about to happen next year. And it starts in Spain, and it goes all the way to off the coast of Somalia. And it's going to have a totality period of 6 minutes and 23 seconds. And so this is the longest one that they've had over land. And they've had other ones that were kind of long, that were over the ocean. But this is the first time that it's going to happen. And I think you got to get all the way till, is it 2114 or something like that, before you get to the next super long eclipse. So if you're an eclipse hunter or shopper, or you're thinking about, seeing the total eclipse, this is the one that you're going to have to go see. And so it's going to, and so of course, when it starts out in Spain, and I think the path is like 160 miles wide. So when you're in the center of the path, you're going to get the best eclipse experience, of course. And what's going to happen is Luxor, Egypt, is where the total eclipse, it will be 6 minutes and 22 seconds. So just 1 second shy in totality of the longest point you can find, and I don't think you'll even be able to detect it or notice it. So this whole thing is just like fascinating to me. And if you guys get a chance to go try to check out the eclipse, this is the time to be able to do it. And and like I said, you won't ever get another opportunity to be able to see something this spectacular. And then the eclipse is going to be and this is the thing, I saw a lot of people that were on cruises and other parts of Europe that were checking it out, and it was cloudy. And I think that was one of the reasons why I had looked, and I think we ultimately decided not to try to do something, was because the chances of it being cloudy were like 95%, or if not slightly lower than that. And so the videos that I saw were still spectacular, but it would be nice to be able to see, the point of totality, to be able to at least look at it through goggles, where you still get the chilling effect of the temperature drop, and everything goes dark. And if you're around, night creatures, they start to come out and make noise and all that because they're slightly confused, But it's still an experience, is an experience, and shout outs to all the people that got to go and check that out and do that. But for the most part, it's like 99.9% chance that it's going to be clear. And that time of year, the climate in Egypt and Luxor, because I think the eclipse is going to be like middays, 11-ish to 1-ish, somewhere in there. And it's going to be hot outside, so it's going to be 108 to 10 degrees is what they're expecting, what it typically is, not a cloud in the sky. And then the sun will be extremely high in the sky, so it won't be low in the horizon at all. So it'll almost be, I think it's going to be, if 90 degrees is straight up, it's going to be like at 89 degrees. All right, I take it back, somewhere in the low 80s as far as the azimuth of the sun. So it will definitely be spectacular, and I'd be interested to hear if anybody is planning on going. Now that I've found this, I actually found it on accident, and now that I've found it, all my feeds right now are Egypt. And then I was talking to Marilyn last night. I was like, have you ever heard of Egypt-E? And she's like, no. Egyptian lover? She said, no. And I said, when we were kids, he was popular because he used to do beat music. And I said, we all thought this brother, he was a light-skinned brother with a long jerry curl. And we all thought homeboy was from Egypt. And all of his music was about Egypt and, his perspective of being in Egypt. I'm talking about the pyramids were so shiny and there were freaks everywhere. There's a lot of freaks on the dance floor, all that kind of stuff. And when you go ask ChatGPT, is Egyptian lover Egyptian? It's like, no, he's not Egyptian at all. He's Black American, and this is his name. He's got like a name that you wouldn't even expect. And so they said the reason why he wanted everybody to, why he decided to choose that persona is because he wanted everybody to know that he was a lover and not a fighter. So I was like, okay, all right, I get it. All good. That's hella funny. So yeah, Egypt-E is not from Egypt. And, because I was like, maybe we'll see him over there. But that's not going to be the case. Like I said, this is going to be an incredible natural phenomenon. And I'm not saying one way or another if we're going or not. If we are going, I'll let you know when we get there. And if we're not going, I'm still going to talk about it periodically between here and there. So that's all I got to say about Egypt and the eclipse of the century that's coming. And I'm interested to find out if anybody's even thinking about trying to make the trek. And I'll say this, a lot of places that you go, they are very expensive. And Egypt is not. So if you can find a way to get there on the plane, to actually stay there in Egypt and see the pyramids and go to Giza, go to Cairo, go to Luxor, all those major players, a lot of those activities are really inexpensive, to be able to do. And even to get the food, you can find hotels easily that are overlooking the pyramids. Like you wake up and see the pyramids in the morning, you can find them for like $100 a night, if less. Some of them are like 40, 55 bucks. Some of the accommodations might be a little bit sparse, but you can make it happen. Even like the Hilton that they have there in Luxor, it normally runs like $155 a night for a resort. And so a beautiful resort. So like I said, you just got to figure out a way to try to get to Egypt, and if you can make it. And like I said, the thing next year is on August 2nd, and a lot of the big hotels and stuff like that, you can't even book right now. You can't get airfare yet because the calendar always rolls forward a certain amount of days. I don't know how many it is, and we haven't even reached that window yet, so it's very difficult to be able to see what's going on. Like I said, all my feed on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok right now, because I've taken the time to look at it a couple times, is all 100% like Egypt. So the whole thing is very fascinating. So that rolls us, let's close out this topic and it rolls us automatically into the next one, which is holiday travel. So we're talking about travel now, getting to Egypt next year. You know, sometimes you gotta focus on what's in front of you before you get to what is coming up. And so we always have a ton of travel in the tank. And right now we have trips that are planned through August of next year. So the end of August, September. So we look at a calendar, we've got stuff, if there's airfare available, it's already booked and paid for. We've got deposits down on stuff. And then when you get to the point of no return, they'll kick in and take the money. And so that's us. So like I said, and with us is that if something comes up where we have a small opening to hang out and kick it, and we're trying to coordinate with people to try to do stuff, if things don't work out like they're supposed to, and I know a lot of people don't plan as far in advance as we do, you know, but if we have a window and we allow people a reasonable time to try to make things happen, if it doesn't, we always have a plan B, a plan C, or plan D to keep things going. And so, and a lot of it is based on timing, pricing, you know, whatever it might be. And, you know, like I said, we keep a calendar of stuff. And so, like I said, we're already fully booked and paid for stuff happening for the holidays. And so the travel holiday season really runs Thanksgiving and, you know, maybe a week before, all the way through about a week after New Year's. And so it's a very competitive time to try to travel and try to do things. And of course, there's always last minute deals if stuff happens with the economy or location or whatever. But man, you just have to be very, very diligent if you want to try to move forward. So like I said, we already have something spectacular planned for Thanksgiving. We've got something spectacular planned for Christmas. And the one thing that I do, especially now with airfare, I try to book as far in advance as possible because, and I've set up trackers on Google for the same flight to be able to see how prices change. And the way things are right now, you have to book early. And if the flight goes down in price or the miles change where they don't need as much, I turn around and rebook, or I reach out to the airline. I use American, that's who I'm consolidated with. They just give me a store credit to use in the future towards something else. And so if you guys are thinking about traveling this holiday, like I said, what I'm seeing now with the graphs is that the prices are ticking up. So if you want to try to fly and travel someplace, try to get those things booked as soon as possible and do yourself a favor. And if prices go down, set up a Google tracker. If prices go down a little bit from where you've actually paid, you know, make sure you have something where you can, a mechanism where you can get an adjustment and get a store credit to use, you know, another day. And the other thing that I do is I periodically go and check like all of my travel that we've set up. So, and hotels, whatever they might be, and you know, airfare, that type of stuff. And what I've noticed is when I first booked a lot of my travel, especially hotels and stuff that we're going to be doing, a lot of those things have gone down in price. And so I've gone and canceled them and rebooked, or there's another option that popped up. And I would like to think that some of the options that we have picked, they're like the best option that's available in that area. So if we're gonna go someplace, we're gonna stay in a hotel, resort type of thing, there's only so many rooms that these places have. And you know, sometimes I start out with one and then I cancel it and go to another, cancel and go to another. Or I'll book one and then I'll go back and check, the price has gone down, the variation. I'll go ahead and cancel and rebook, that type of stuff. But the places that I have booked now that are signature places to stay, they're sold out. They are no longer available, you know. And if you start to look at, when I start looking at the one thing I use as my tool I consolidate with American Airlines, and so pretty much all of my travel that I have is with American. And so if we go on a cruise, I book it through American because I get extra points. If I do airfare, I book it through American because we get mega points, and I got the credit card, so there's always these multipliers that are on top of that. And whenever I book hotels, etc., I always book those through American. And so when you book them through American, I can see they incentivize you to stay in certain hotels based upon the number of points that they kick you back. And so I'll start sorting by whatever one has the most points, and then I'll match that up with what the price is. And I'll find the one that I generally don't have to pay that much for to get the most extra miles on the back end. And so like I said, a lot of those hotels from when I first started doing searches early in the year, they're gone. And there was also some that I saved to go back and check later on. They're gone. And so we have some other stuff that's over in Europe next year that we're going to potentially do, and I've been kind of tracking, those hotels. A lot of them, they're gone. And so what I want to say is just be careful if you're trying to think about traveling for the holidays and the near future there afterwards. You want to try to get this stuff booked as soon as you can, and make sure that you, and I've learned, we've booked hotels before, or we've booked trips that are non-refundable. Something changes and we have a near close call where we can't almost make it. And we've lost out on a couple things like tickets that we had already paid for and purchased, but we were able to resell those and save ourselves. But I don't book anything right now at all that is non-refundable. And I prefer to have something that's non-refundable, especially on a hotel within like 72 hours of the day that we booked. Like we had booked back in January of this year when I first found out about the 2050 fireworks show that they're going to be taking place in DC. And I immediately booked a place. I paid for it. I think it was like $1,500. The price, and I knew the prices were going to creep up. So I wanted to make sure that we stayed as close to ground zero as possible. And then lo and behold, as we got close, I ended up having a kidney stone event, like my first one. I talked about it in the previous video yesterday. And at that point, it was so dire that I was like, we need to cancel. So I ended up canceling the trip, and I got my money back. And we ended up still going up there, but we ended up hanging out with our northern delegation, which was great. We were able to get a great front row seat, so we're always thankful for the northern delegation that opened their and showed us hospitality up there, so we're always thankful for that. But I was able to get my $1,500 back and got credited, and we ended up using the money to pay for something else. So always be cautious and careful, especially if you're booking on a lot of these travel sites online, that a lot of the stuff is non-refundable, and if there's an issue or problem, you're kind of stuck. At least with American, there's a problem, I can contact them, and I always make sure that I buy, even when I sort the hotel, there's a little thing, you can click, there's a free breakfast, cancellation, and so I always choose that as an option. So that's all I want to say really about the holiday travel. Just make sure you guys get it together now and start looking and book your holiday travel as soon as possible, and make sure that you guys try to keep things on a cancelable basis as much as possible, and then you'll definitely be golden. And if there's somebody that you consolidate all your business with, and you end up buying airfare these days, there's a difference between buying like the basic, like on American, there's like the basic that's like non-refundable, you can't make no changes. There's like the main cabin plus. If you do the main cabin, it's going to definitely be higher than the basic economy. The basic economy is more or less to try to mimic like Spirit or one of those other, consolidator, or one of those other low price airlines. But if you end up booking, I always end up booking just the main cabin because I get upgraded to the preferred seats automatically. And when I do that, and I had to cancel trips. I've had to cancel flights. I'm booked to go with Maryland for something on business, and that ends up getting canned. And then I get a store credit, and then I end up using that on another flight, so it's not that big of a deal. And if you want to do like the main cabin plus, that's going to be even more, and then that gives you the ability to have it be able to be refunded back to your card. So you just have to kind of make some critical decisions there and decide, well, Do I use this provider all the time? And I'm going to use it again? If not, you may want to pay the extra amount of money to be able to get it so that things are actually refundable. But like I said, you want to start out being refundable as much as possible, and if you can't, try to book that stuff like when you know for sure you're like at the very last minute where you're going to be going for sure. That keeps you from having to deal with. So that's it, guys. That's it for that topic, and let's jump into the last topic real quick. So I started. This topic is my chopstick journey. Who would have? I don't think I've ever seen anybody ever talk about this, but I started a chopstick journey. So what does that mean? I now only eat my food with chopsticks. So if you know me, I'm very, very proud of all my heritage and stuff. I'm roughly 80% in me, West African. I've got roughly about 18% European, and I've got roughly about 2% Chinese. So, this is not necessarily to lift up my heritage, but it's more of a strategic thing. And so this is what it is. Now, going forward, I eat all my food with chopsticks. That's it. That's all I use is chopsticks. So if I'm going to eat a bowl of rice, I eat it with chopsticks. If I'm going to eat potato chips, I eat those with chopsticks. If I'm going to eat peanuts, I'm going to eat those with chopsticks. If I'm going to eat rice in a bowl with something on top of it, I'm going to eat that with chopsticks. If I'm going to eat noodles, I'm going to eat with chopsticks. If I'm going to eat cheese, I'm going to eat the cheese with chopsticks. So pretty much everything right now I've converted over to using chopsticks. And so why have I done this? So at this point right now in my life, I'm 58 years old, and I think the greater quantity of my life is behind me, and I want to try to make sure my life going forward is as full as possible. That way I can maximize everything I need to, because every day gets me one day closer to the final demise that we're all up against. I want to try to be as healthy as possible, and so I've gained a little bit of weight, and then I want to try to get that problem taken care of. And so it's kind of exasperated itself over like the last 9 weeks. I was down and out completely with the kidney stone epidemics. Once I got the first one taken care of, I didn't do anything else as far as like exercise for 9 weeks. I didn't ride my bike. I didn't do anything because I didn't want to start another episode while I was waiting for the second treatment to come up. And so I had my second procedure, and here we are now. This is my second time out here on my bike. And so nothing wrong. And so I've always used the exercise to control my weight about where I was. And if I'm not riding a lot, my weight will creep up, and then I'll ride a lot, and then I'll pretty much stay stable. And so my problem is I love to eat food, and unlike other people out there too, I know you guys all like to eat food also as well, but it's always, I overeat in the quantities of how I eat, And so what it comes down to is I've noticed recently that when I've gone to eat food, like we went to a restaurant that had chopsticks, like when we go to Gun Bay on the ship, like on Virgin Voyages, you have an option of having a fork or a chopstick. So whenever I'm in a restaurant that offers chopsticks, I will always use them. I will always eat less food because it takes a lot more time to get the food in your mouth. And then because you gotta work with it, get it to your mouth, and then you gotta continue on. And that process of, instead of shoveling it in your mouth, or if you take a handful of nuts and then you throw them in your mouth, or you eat them over like 2 or 3 bites or whatever, it doesn't take long before they're gone, and then of course you want some more. And so, but if you took the time to eat one nut at a time, you still get the satisfaction of having the peanut. You got still a bowl of nuts that you can eat. And then if you take a handful, put it in a bowl, and you eat them one by one with the chopsticks, you're going to end up eating significantly less nuts because of the process of having to take pick the nut up and put it in your mouth. And so what happens is there's like a delay of about 15 minutes or so. It probably varies by person. And so once you start eating, you get to the point where your stomach has to send a signal to your brain to say, hey, I'm cool, go ahead and stop it and chill. And if you've ever gone to a restaurant where you have like multiple courses, a lot of times they'll start you out with, especially like I noticed this on Virgin, and they will start you out with, even like I said, when I go on the Virgin cruises, I have a tendency before in the past to gain like 10 pounds on a cruise ship. I think everybody that does, because the food is so readily available, it's in quantity, it's like eat, drink, party, yep, let's go. So on Virgin, it's at a completely different pace. And so if you want to get food, you have to order it and you have to wait for it. So like, for example, if you end up deciding to go into the galley, which would be probably the closest thing to a buffet, but they provide the food, you got to go to the counter, you got to order it. They will give you a little buzzer, then you go sit your behind down, and then you go eat it. And then, so the buzzer will go off, and then you'll get your food, you'll come back, and you'll grab it, you'll eat it. And then if you want to get something else, you're gonna have to go back and order the next meal, and then they'll give you a buzzer. When it's done, you come and get it. And so that process of slowing down the pace of your food as it's being delivered, you know, it gets to the point where you don't eat as much, you don't consume as much. So most of the time when I've gone on Virgin Voyages cruises, I come back home, I haven't gained any weight at all, maybe a pound, something like that. And then, you know, it's probably, you know, give me a day or two, you can poop it out. And so that's kind of a realistic understanding of what's happening. And then if you end up going to one of the nicer restaurants on Virgin, you know, they're gonna sit you down and then you're gonna order your food and they're gonna bring the appetizer out. And I don't know if you guys have ever noticed this before. Sometimes you'll get an appetizer and then you'll eat it and then you're waiting for the main course to come. And then while you're waiting for the main course to come, you're like, sure, I'm not hungry anymore. It's because you've had a chance to allow your body to catch up with where you've had allowed to have your brain catch up to where your body is, which is pretty cool. And so then you'll be like, well, I got my food, I need to go ahead and eat it. And so you'll go ahead and eat it. And then the next thing you know, you're overeating, you know, and then you're like, well, let me go ahead and get the dessert. So, and so what I tend to do when we're at a sit-down restaurant in Virgin, I don't eat as much. You know, I have a tendency not to. And if I do eat, I try to order just a few, because I know that just by sitting down, ordering the food slowly, or getting it slowly, it's going to allow you to be able to get done and get satisfied quicker before the next thing comes. And so that's just kind of how things have rolled. And so I was thinking about this, and when we were in Gumbay, the amount of food that I ate, you know, it's like I didn't eat that much because it's a process of, it's like an hour and a half experience. And so you won't eat as much. And so you're like, well, I decided I don't want to have that or whatever. And then you might go back later on and get some dessert someplace else on the ship. But that's kind of like what I've come to the conclusion. So now what I've done is I've established a point where I'm only going to eat all my food with chopsticks. And these are the basic rules. And so, and how this all came about. On Sunday, I think Marilyn was out. Maybe it was Saturday or something. Marilyn was out hanging out with the family. I was at home working, and I was eating food all day. So, and I had a couple plates, I had made some popcorn, I had some stuff in some bowls, and I just let the stuff pile up on my desk. And then so at the end of the evening, it was getting in the way, so I put it all inside the bowl, the big popcorn bowl. It's like the next morning when I got up, I came down and I was like, damn, I had a whole bunch of stuff that I ate at my desk yesterday. And so I was like, that might be a thing to not eat at my desk anymore. So what I've established now is that if I'm gonna eat my food, I'm only gonna eat it at the table. I'm not going to be watching TV, I'm not gonna be on my phone at all. I'm just gonna sit there at the table or go outside and sit on the patio and eat my food. That's what I'm gonna do. And so that way I can focus on food and the flavor and the taste and leave it at that. And the other rule is, that I'm going to be doing, is that, you know, so if it's food, like for example, oftentimes I'd go get a piece of cheese. I'd slice the cheese, hold it in my hand, and I would eat it, you know. And 2 or 3 bites, the slice of cheese or the block of cheese is gone. So if I'm going to get cheese now, for example, and this applies to everything else, I'm going to take the cheese and eat it only with the chopsticks, but I'm going to take the cheese and cut. So I buy like a block of cheese from Costco. A good example is like the Tillamook one. That's not the brand that we buy, but that gives you an idea. I cut it, and then I cut the cheese into 9 pieces, and I put the 9 pieces in a bowl. Then I'll use the chopstick to eat one, chew it, eat it, tastes great, lovely. Then I'll eat the second one, and then the third one, the fourth one. So instead of it being gone in like a matter of less than a minute, it might take me 4 or 5 or 6 minutes to eat all this cheese. You know, so I'm doing stuff like that. And then even like on toast, like I'm famous for taking 4 pieces of toast, putting it in the toaster, toasting it, butter, some jelly, and then just holding those and eating it. So if I'm going to eat toast, cool. I'm gonna make 1 piece of toast, and then I'm gonna take that piece of toast and create it, and then once it's done, butter, jelly, whatever it is I put on it, I'm gonna cut it also too into 9 pieces, and then I'll eat each one of those individual pieces with a chopstick. And so it takes time to chew each one, you know. I'm sitting there minding my own business, just looking around out the window, whatever it might be. And so once my mouth is clean, I'll take the next piece and eat it and continue on and on and on. And so once I've eaten all that piece of toast by the individual blocks, if I'm still hungry and I want more toast, I'll go back and make 1 more slice. And so instead of me making 4 at one time and eating all of them, I'll start out with 1. And then if I'm still hungry, I'll make a second one. And I'd guarantee you this, by the time I go back to the toaster, wait to cook it, and then put some butter on it, and then some jelly, and finally sit down, I'm already at the 15-minute mark. And at that point, I'm not really wanting to eat it at all. So those are some of the basic rules that I've done, that I've chosen on doing. And then so wherever I go right now, if I'm gonna go get a burger, I'm gonna take the burger and I'm gonna cut it up. And so I'm not gonna eat any hand food anymore. I'm only gonna eat it using my chopsticks. And so even yesterday I had some yogurt. I ate yogurt with chopsticks. So, and I didn't make that much yogurt in the bowl. I knew it was gonna take me a while to eat it. And when I got done, I was scraping with the chopsticks, but I ended up buying like these little salt spoons that I will use for like little small things like yogurt, or if I decide to buy some ice cream or something like that, that way I can slow down the pace that I decide to eat it. But that's kind of what I'm basically doing right there with the chopsticks. And so, I bought some portable sets that I can take with me out in public. So wherever I go, I'm gonna have in my bag, I bought like 4 sets of chopsticks. I got a travel set, and plus I also bought 3 other ones I can use. The travel set is to use out of whenever I fly, because it's only gonna have a spoon, a fork, and chopsticks. The other ones will have a knife in them, so if I need to be able to use that, I can. So that's what my goal is right now, is to switch over to the chopsticks. I've already been doing that since Monday. I think I might have started it Sunday evening, but that's where we are right now. But I'll let you guys know how things are going. And like I said, the goal is to be able to eat less food. And wherever I go in person or in public, I'm going to take my chopsticks with me and I'm going to use them. And if anybody asks, I'm like, hey, I'm just honoring my heritage. And I'm going to explain to them also as well that this is where I'm coming from, and follow my journey on Facebook. So TikTok, Instagram, everything else. But thanks, guys. I really appreciate you guys for following the day and taking the time to listen to me. We're coming up on time here. Peace, guys. Have a great day. In my life. Oh, shit. Okay, my brother fell. This is black ice. Okay. All right, I'm okay. All systems check. All right, I'm good. So let me just penguin it.